Disney World, unthinkable tragedy happening. A 2-year-old taken down last night by a 4 to 7 foot alligator, and the sad news today, this is now a recovery, and that's what we're finding out. So think again, the Grand Floridian at Walt Disney World, beautiful hotel, arguably the nicest on the property, and this little guy's with his family splashing around in the water, and the gator attacks. Joining us now, criminal defense attorney Whitney Boan, who is a Florida native. So before we talk about it, beyond that, your shock just to hear that what happened to a little 2-year-old.
I'm absolutely shocked. I live in Florida. I've gone to Disney my entire life. Even I might not have assumed that there would be gators in that lake. I would think with the amount of control that Disney has over its properties and the guests that visit there, what they're doing, how many there are, that they would know if there were gators in their lakes or not. I'm not saying that they would have an absolute duty to know that in terms of legally. This is Florida. Gators find bodies of water. They are going to do that. But still, it's just absolutely shocking to me that this has happened.
Yeah. So on a couple of fronts there on that, because there's two sides of this. You're a Floridian, and you say, okay, gators, this is an indigenous part of the world for them,
yes,
right?
Yes.
On the other side, not everybody knows that. Especially, so do you think, I think it's a shock to a lot of people, especially those outside of Florida, say, wow, Seven Seas Lagoon and these beautiful resorts, and there's gators lurking.
People from Nebraska would probably not assume that Disney wouldn't have control over the lakes in terms of knowing whether or not there's hazardous gators there. And I understand there were signs that said, do not swim, no swimming. But I don't know that that necessarily puts someone on notice who isn't from this area. Let's say they're from overseas, you know, that there's gators in these lakes. Does that mean that, you know, that this deserved to happen, or that Disney's necessarily at fault? I don't want to make a tragedy into a bigger, you know, issue in terms of a legal spectacle. But at the same time, there's questions that I have.
Yeah, there are, exactly. Those are the questions, and I'm sure the folks at Disney are going to provide some answers for us here. And from what we gather, anyway, they do have like a wildlife, and I'm remembering from the press conference, a wildlife monitoring team that keeps tabs on any gators that come into some of these areas. So I think they're doing the best they can. They've never had an attack like this, so there's that on that front. But I still do think it's a surprise to many that think, wow, man-made lagoon like this.
Yes.
Many are probably surprised there's even one gator in there.
And it turns out, you know, they went in there and now they've killed, what, 3 or 4 other gators?
5 was the latest.
Okay, yeah. And I mean, who knew, you know? I understand the dynamics of bodies of water in Florida and the propensity for gators to get in them. It's just a little surprising to me that this happened, and I know it's surprising to everybody else.
Yeah. So moving forward, do you expect the signage and the warnings to change of beware of wildlife, or specifically alligators?
I would say that Disney's probably going to take very specific measures moving forward in terms of putting guests more on notice about gators, maybe even restricting access to the lake in terms of your ability to get in it. Like this family, I think, was in a few feet of water, or 1 foot at least.
And I'm sure you can concur. My family, we've done it.
Yes.
Where at the end of the day, they're splashing around in the water, waiting to see the fireworks, right?
Right.
You can see it, especially from the Grand Floridian.
Exactly.
And it's such just the slice of Americana, you know, that, and you can attest to it, having been there so many times, that has gone just so terribly, terribly wrong. Whitney, thanks again. It really is. Thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it. Can't believe all this going on here. You've got to be just heartbroken.
Orlando's having a tough time, and I'm really proud of us.
Yeah, Orlando's strong. We just heard that at the press conference, and so many are living it. It really is, to so many degrees. We'll have much more from Orlando. Stay with us.